pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This meeting will be live streamed via Zoom for those who wish to attend virtually. A recording of the session will be made available on YouTube after the fact. We will begin the meeting with roll call, starting to my left, please. Miss Judy?
Judy Bailey.
Keep your name. Thank you. One more time so we can.
Judy Bailey.
Thank you.
Dan Harrison.
Jason Sapoznik.
Nick Christie?
Christina Dryden.
Jeff Kluke.
Stephen Leisure.
Sir in the front. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. The meetings were sent out to the board via email prior to this meeting today from June's meeting. Do we have any updates to the meeting minutes? Do I have a motion to approve those meetings?
So moved.
Do I hear a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Right. I do not have any announcements this evening, so we are going to move directly into public comments. I do believe there was someone here that is going to be speaking about stargazing. Sir. Sorry, Martin, when you get to the microphone, if you could just turn it on, please. There's a little button at the base and then just give us your name and your address. I'm sorry, at the way base of the microphone. You see it? Now,
There we go.
I apologize. Thank you.
How's that? I'm not sure. I lead worship, so I'm not, I usually, I have a direction here. So I'll just try to turn around here as I go. So my name is Mark Gross. I lead, I'm the chair of Dark Sky PA. So that's the state chapter of Dark Sky International. And I've been involved in that since around 2019. And I'm also a member of Mechanicsburg's EAC. Our room is not quite as big as this one. But with the new building, maybe there'll be some good facilities. Anyway, I live in Mechanicsburg. I'm on Allison, so I'm just right across the border here. And it's interesting, in 2019, this was one of the first stops that I had. We had warehouses that were in Upper Allen that changed their high pressure sodium to LEDs. And instantly I basically lost half my sky. And I was still figuring things out in 2019. And I came to speak here, not at Parks and Recs, but a group of people who met with me. So this is the second time. And so I so appreciate that time and this time and getting to share with you all. I think it's interesting, the Parks and Rec, I think is really important. It does a couple things. One, it's, of course, it's conservation of nature, and Dark Sky International and Dark Sky PA is very interested in that. And it's a way for people to experience nature, and especially in these days, there's a big disconnect. Everybody's spending time more inside, and those are the trends. And so for parks and things like that, where people can get out and see and feel and touch, it's really important. And it's important for well-being, and I'll get to that. But I think it's to impart conservation ideas to the younger generations. I'm an older generation now, and I think it's really important to do that for the younger generation. So one of your resources that you do have, while not often thought of in this way, is the night and the night sky. And it's more important than many people realize. So my presentation is called The Importance of a Naturally Dark Night Sky. And Chad, if you would, you can go to the next slide. What I discovered in all the time that I spent since 2019 listening to research, reading papers, going to webinars, both industry and conservation folks, is that from the beginning of time, light and dark, day and night have orchestrated and arranged and timed all life on Earth. And that's not only as an individual, and I'm sure we've all heard of circadian rhythms and people wearing, blue blocking glasses and everything else to try to control that a little bit. Go ahead. Next slide. So interestingly enough, there's light for vision, and there's light as a biological signal or cue. Science, you might see that called a Zeitgeber, a German word. Go ahead. We think a lot about light as in the visible realm, and especially in ordinances, we're thinking of nuisance lighting rather than overall effects. So light at night has consequences for all living organisms based on vision. And there's all kinds of things that I've run across, altered predation and opportunities. Opportunistic predation is what they call it. Loss of darkness is camouflage. Different lights can bring out different things. You'll see different colors, and critters will lose their camouflage. In case of birds, especially, light capture draws them into an area and they're afraid of leaving. And you'll see this at the 9/11 memorial in New York City. They watch for birds. When they get too many, they turn the lights off so they can get out. Otherwise, they're drawn into that and they can't get away. So unnatural activity levels at the wrong time. Birds experience disrupted migration paths, which sending them into dangerous environments. And I'm involved with the Bird Collision Prevention Alliance, which U.S. Fish and Wildlife, Audubon, and some other organizations. And we're losing 1 billion birds a year due to them being drawn into urban areas and they can't get away. There's some other things about that, but a deeper dive I won't go into now, but there is. So masking and mating signals, and does anybody have an idea? There's one of that's really visible this time of year. What's we look forward to it every summer night. Well, bats, yes. There's fire. Did I hear somebody? Fireflies. Yeah. So if you light, that's their mating call, so to speak, is those lights. And if you have lights that are above that, it won't happen, and you won't have fireflies, is what's happening. If you take that further, it's loss of natural nocturnal habitat. And think about it, there's the diurnal and the nocturnal. Half of the habitat on Earth is nocturnal. And if we degrade and destroy that, we're not going to have those animals, insects, and so forth. We won't have them. And I'll talk a little bit more about what problems that causes. But biodiversity, population, and biomass loss. We've lost 70% of the grassland bird species since 1970. And there's, they call it the insect apocalypse. You'll hear that. And light is certainly involved in that, light at night. Next slide, please. So all light at night also has, not only in us, but in all of nature, biological consequences. And there's changes of the timing of seasonal rhythms. That could be migration, but other activities as well. And it mistimes nesting, breeding, and egg laying in birds, as an example. And there's an issue with, and the grassland bird species decline is this diurnal species are foraging at night. So normally those predators weren't out, but now they're able to be out and they're hunting. And so that's additional pressure on species that nest on the ground. So timing of migrations, because there's a plant, insect, animal synchrony where when birds migrate, for instance, you'll have in the fall, they need food. And oddly enough, light and dark are timing the production of things like berries. And the birds do a service as well in that it's the propagation of native plants. So if those things are off and mistimed, you don't have food. In the spring, it's insects. Birds and the baby birds need insects. So lots of entrainment in individuals. We think of that as circadian rhythm, but it can also be in whole species and whole ecosystems. And interestingly enough, nocturnal animals, and especially aquatic environments are really sensitive. So 0.1 lux is a full moon. And so anything over that is more than a full moon. They're using the phases of the moon to do their, their life cycles, their seasonal and daily life cycles. So when we light at night and they lose that cue, we're taking away what entrains them. So next slide, please. So there's nature's law of reciprocity. And I got this, there's a great book called Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Kemmerer, and it's on my resource page. So all living organisms receive and provide services to other individual species and habitats, whole ecosystems. And there's a mutualistic relationship, and that the dark and night, diurnal, nocturnal, have that same thing. And when we disrupt that, we lose the health and resilience. Go ahead. So all artificial light at night is a pollutant. We don't think of it that way, but it is. It's an unnatural substance released into the natural environment with a growing number of known consequences. It degrades and destroys the nocturnal habitat. Go on. So Dark Sky International and Illuminating Engineering Society, the IES, a number of years ago, put together 5 lighting principles for responsible outdoor lighting. They're useful, targeted, low-level, controlled, and warm-colored. And if people are interested, we can go do a deeper dive at another time. You can go on. Next slide. So Dark Sky International, if you're looking at updating ordinances, this is a plug and play for lighting, and you can, it's based on those 5 principles. And you can do a lot of plug and play, and it's very easy to, take pieces out, alter other ones. It's a very nice template, is what it is. And that's available on the Dark Sky International website. Next slide. Design Lights Consortium in the Bird Collision Prevention Alliance, one of the members is Design Lights Consortium. There's an incredible lighting scientist, Leora Radetzky, that heads up the DLC Luna program. And so there's some great things on their website. If it's harder to see in the image, but that lighter yellow that's kind of right underneath the light, that is good lighting. Everything else outside that is wasted energy, wasted lighting. And I can tell you in Mechanicsburg, I had a scientist from Adler Planetarium in Chicago help me out. He did a calculation for me. Mechanicsburg Borough, satellite sensed, we're wasting about 240,000 kilowatt hours of electricity a year. It's enough to, I don't know, somewhere between 10 and 20 homes, we could light them. We could provide their energy for a year from that. It's crazy. But we don't think about that. My sky at my house was just over the border, is 40 times the natural level. And so how much energy does it take to light it to that? It's a lot. Places like Harrisburg, they're going to be over 100. Probably Camp Hill is over 100 times the natural level. And so there's a huge disruption in nature. And go ahead. So for your parks, a naturally dark night sky is a foundational part of any conservation or sustainability strategy. For without a naturally dark night, we'll lose it all because they are mutualistic. They depend on each other, and we'll lose both the day and the night. To protect the daytime environment, the nighttime environment has to be protected and preserved as they are an equal part of the same entity, the whole. So, go on. I have resources, and Chad, can you, if anybody wants a copy of that, can you email that out or whatever? That would be fine. And so there's some great resources on there, and you can take a look at that on your own time. Go to the next slide, please. So Dark Sky International and the Dark Sky PA chapter, this is our mission: raise awareness of the effects of artificial light at night, advocate for restoration and preservation of the natural nighttime environment. Not only the sky, I'm an astronomer, an amateur astronomer, but it's not only the sky, I've recognized as much, much more. Protect communities and creation from the harmful effects of light pollution, and there are many. Promote responsible outdoor lighting, which is how we do this, and it's not hard, it's easy. And the last thing is promote night sky recreation and well-being activities, events, and places. And so I've done night sky programs for years for the borough, for DCNR, for some other townships around. And I know how to do that night sky program and make it interesting to people. But lately I've looked at where they're using the night sky. They're using forest bathing is a kind of a common term that people can go and they kind of de-stress, and that helps them. And so I was thinking, we have veterans and we have PTSD. They're coming home with PTSD, and so I didn't know how to, could I hook that, connect those two things and provide something. And I contacted our Don Kiefer, our senator, and she connected me with organization in Lemoyne and Dr. Sheldon Kaufman, who counsels veterans with PTSD. And so I'm stepping out. I know how to do the dark sky thing, but I don't know how to do the counseling piece of that to help. How can that be used to properly help, especially the veterans with PTSD? So August the 7th, I belong to the Harrisburg Astronomy and Naylor Observatory. So they're letting us use the observatory grounds for August the 7th. But I would like to make a request from you guys. And Sheldon actually requested Simpson Park, but I know Generations is also would be a good spot. The ask is that we would be able to hold sessions, and I'm busy with all kinds of stuff, so more than once every couple of months is hard to fit in, but that's kind of my intention. And so my request of you, would you allow us to be in one of the parks? Of course, it has to be after dark or you won't be able to see the stars, and that changes with the time of year. And so that's my first request. The second one would be as the Dark Sky PA chapter and trying to have opportunities for people to go into a park where there's less light pollution and a comfortable area where they can do some stargazing on their own, and whether it's mindful stargazing or just, enjoying the night sky. And certainly there's lots of amateur astronomers that are in your township here, and that would be a wonderful thing to have a space that they could go to, that they would be allowed to be in after dark. And my experiences with that, I've been out along the roadway with my wife out in Monroe Township, where we were in in a kind of at the edge of a park. And there was some folks who wanted to come into that park that what they were planning on doing was not what you would want people to be doing. And I was trying to image, so it takes a long time to image, and they kept coming back again and going by again. They didn't stop because we were there with the telescopes and the red lights and the lasers and all kinds of things going on. They weren't interested in that. And people with thousands of dollars worth of astronomy gear are not going to be the ones causing problems, but they need a space. Out west, there's places in even the national parks for that. But in around here, it's hard to get an okay for people to be in a park after dark. But if there could be a space or a place that could happen, I really would appreciate that from Dark Sky PA. So thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or thoughts?
Well, access to the park for an event, when we do movies in the park, so having people in our parks, after hours is not unheard of. I think Generations would probably be the best park for it, but the only concern is if the demand exceeds the parking capacity at Generations right now, which there's not much. And then is this like a volunteer type thing, or are there costs involved?
No,
I'm
no,
just curious,
no.
because
Yeah, I don't know Sheldon. He's a doctor, licensed counselor.
yeah,
And so I don't know if they're paying him for any sessions and so
Right.
forth. He's also a vet. There's a lot of empathy. He understands. But for me, all my night sky programs, and I would offer this to your residents as well. I've done them for Mechanicsburg School District, and like I said, for DCNR up at Kings Gap and Colonel Denning. And I bring a couple scopes with cameras that do imaging. And I can put them on a TV screen so people can see, they can see what's out there. And there's things that we can't see with our eyes, but the cameras will pick it up. And I have some, I'll bring a visual scope as well for if there's planets or the moon for people. But this is outreach for Dark Sky International and Dark Sky PA. We want people to enjoy the night sky and fall in love with it. And they're,
because people don't know what they're missing.
oh my.
And that's, I grew up on the West Coast, and the
You
dark
know.
sky on the West Coast is much different than the dark sky on the East Coast. And even, from your childhood to today, how much of the sky has been lost. So this is a really good program, and I think if people see what they're missing, they might have a better appreciation for all the light pollution that we have in our municipalities currently. But when it comes to like park planning and stuff, I'm sure if there's any lighting installed, we use best practices to minimize the light pollution. That's kind of our scope as far as contributing to the problem, but I think, we'd absolutely support anything that educates the public or helps the, vets. I don't know who on this board would disagree that that's a good thing.
I'll walk around with a picture. One of my new telescopes, I can do do Milky Way images. Of course, we have so much light pollution, it's really difficult. But to see what you're missing that's in our skies is crazy. I'll walk around with this.
Jeff, did you have something?
Yeah, I'll wait until he's done because it's specific to him.
Yeah, I grew up in Upper Allen Township, and when I was a kid on the farm that I live on right now, you could walk outside and it was totally black. You couldn't see your hand in front of your face. And the skies looked like that, and I could find the Milky Way, and now it's not that way. And I'm sure people in the township would like to support education in those areas. And I think it goes along with our farmland preservation efforts to have open spaces in our township.
I agreed with Jason about having it at Generations rather than Simpson, because I think the coming out of Simpson at night would be like tricky.
Yeah.
So
Would that need to be hosted by the township, kind of like the movie in the park, or could they get a permit for
I mean, that's why I asked Mark to come tonight. So obviously this goes against our ordinance of not being in the
Right.
parks at night. We don't personally have a problem with that as long as we know dates and obviously can let the police know when's going on. Obviously his events for the vets, I don't think we need to be part of, but definitely doing some joint programming would be awesome.
Yeah. Mark, you said that you belong to Mechanicsburg EAC. Does that include also the Bird Town with Mechanicsburg as well? Yes. Okay. And well, we have our own Bird Town too. And I would encourage you to reach out through the different committees between the municipalities to reach out to us, specifically Alexis. I think she's in contact with your borough. We could probably help coordinate that because obviously our mission is similar in many ways for conservation and habitat control and also light pollution regarding, migrations and things. So I would encourage you to coordinate with us and maybe we can see that happening as an activity.
I just wanted to echo what everyone was saying. I think this is a fantastic idea and we'd love to do more with it. I think the one thing I would suggest is be wary of walking through Generations. I think we realize the more we walk around, it can be a little difficult to get through some of those trailways and whatnot, even when there's lots of light. And so we'd hate to have a program go out there and having someone twist their ankle or something like that. I don't know how the board feels, but I would even suggest something like a Winding Hill or a Friendship where you have lots of big green open grass space. I would hope that there isn't as much light pollution there, even though you have the community. You think it's still too much?
Winding Hill, nah. I live right there.
Yeah, Friendship's pretty bright. I mean,
Yeah.
I
Generations.
mean, Generations is the first away, but like that would be my one.
if it's
concern.
gonna be an event with Bird Town, we could even cordon something off probably, you know what I mean? So you're not.
Yeah, so I guess for us, I mean, there's no need for a motion or anything. We're not bringing this to the Board of Commissioners. This is just informational based. And Chad, you and Mark can connect on programming, or is there something else you need from us?
No, I think that's it, just to be aware and obviously know that it's why we had him come in and pitch the idea. So we'll keep you updated as we go along.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it.
Mark,
Any additional public comments?
I just wanted to sort of define the EAC, Environmental Advisory Committee, and I'd like to see that in Upper Allen Township where active conservationists can bring assets to the township and their perspective in lots of ways.
Thank you, Judy. Township Commissioners, Eric and Jennifer, do we have anything to share? Lovely. Mr. Krebs.
Yep, just a couple updates on the crew. So the last couple weeks with storms, we had some trees come down. So a lot of our mowing crew with the heat and stuff took a break from mowing and was cleaning up all that stuff. Some of our full timers are we're replacing all the water fountains that are out in the parks. We got them through budget a couple years ago and just now are kind of getting to them. We're doing line painting in all the parking lots to spruce up all the lines. With the line painting, we are working on the one-way at Winding Hill South that we talked about. So that is open now. The signage is up. We have one more sign to put up yet, but there's do not enter signs coming from the development. The parking spots are striped and there's arrows on the ground. So that is open. We're going to monitor it. The police are aware of it. If it becomes too much of an issue, we might look into a gate or something just so we can open it during events, but we'll see how things go with that. For our tree lighting event that we host every year, there's been talk over the last couple of years about getting a live tree transplanted. So Alba Orthodontics was gracious enough to donate money to actually transplant a large tree. The tree's 18 foot high, 15 foot round. It'll be transplanted probably late August, so we'll keep people updated and do some updates on that as we go. But we have a spot picked out down at Winding Hill North for our permanent tree lighting tree. And one last thing that just kind of came together today. Over the last year, I've been working with Messiah University with their therapeutic program. One thing that they're going to do with their class this year is they're actually going to go to our parks. We have 8 parks identified that they're going to do ADA reports on through their class and part of their programming. So we'll have that we're working on in October, and then we'll bring some of that information back. So I have.
Awesome. Thank you, Chad. Eddie,
Once again, what I have is down below in the agenda.
we will wait. All right. I don't think Tiffany is here. All right. Our committee liaisons, Mr. Spoznik, I don't think we've had a dog park committee
No, we have
meeting,
not.
have we? So nothing there. Birdtown, Mr. Kluge.
Yes, sir. Birdtown, want to thank Alexis for all her hard work. She continues to be the driving force to make us award-winning so far, only in second year. And as I said to Mark, please make sure to reach out to us because in addition to Upper Allen, Mechanicsburg, Camp Hill, Monroe, I think there's about 7 different municipalities that have Birdtown communities that focus on environmental issues and habitat and conservation issues. One thing along that line that Alexis has sent out on behalf of Birdtown to the committee and other residents is a reminder about a backyard habitat program. It's a registration program to encourage homeowners to register their properties underneath this program to recognize birds, habitat, things like that. It's not rocket science. It's not complicated. I think many people do it, and you could even do it on a back porch to an extent if you're lucky enough. It's primarily making sure you're recognizing food, shelter, water, and I'm trying to remember what the nesting opportunities with birdhouses and the materials. So that is something that we are striving really hard to do right now because that, if I remember correctly, I think if we accomplish this, in addition to some of our other education outreach opportunities, we can reach gold standard for Birdtown.
Yes.
Okay.
We need 7 properties and we have 2, we've gotten 2 so far.
Yeah.
So we need 5 more properties to enroll in this program.
And I'll stress also, it's one thing that I think we were looking at, let's take the easier path, and we could have done that technically through Parks and Rec. We could have looked and identified parks as these are ways to do that. And that kind of defeats the purpose, as, gentleman was with us before, Mark explained, you want to try and educate the public, and the idea is to create habitats in your backyards. So you want to educate the public on the reasons why you might have more lightning bugs this year, which we do. It's a matter of trying to do the right thing. So if anyone has any questions, the link is on the township webpage regarding Birdtown, and we can have that addressed. And our next meeting will be August 12th. And then prior to that, we will be attending Camp Hill's Stormfest activities, which deals with watershed and management issues, and as well as their Birdtown activities there. So we're busy. So
Sounds like it.
Is that backyardhabitats.org? Is that where you would enroll in that?
that you can do that. In fact, again, Alexis has the link for it's Birdtown specifically. Birdtown, Pennsylvania specifically has one where it's coordinated with Audubon. There's National Wildlife one where you can do one like that. There's multiple different spots where you can go to do that. And a lot of them will send you then a sign showing, hey, this is a pollinator friendly habitat. It recognizes the birds, things like that. So I think it really is beneficial for a lot of different things. If you don't want a lot of bugs around your house, encourage more birds to be there, and that helps too. So thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Park assignments. So again, Friendship looks really great. I did notice that we're working on replacing that one water fountain in between the two soccer fields, so I noticed that. But again, everything else looks great there. Rose Garden, although it is not as heavily populated or attended as Friendship, still looks fantastic. Nice to have that in my backyard. So well done there. Steve, anything on Generations or Country Estates?
Country Estates looks great. It's actually my kid's new favorite playground because no one's ever there. So they love going there to have the field to play soccer and stuff. Generations we'll just talk about later on the agenda when we drop down to that.
Next, Judy with McCormick and Grantham.
I'll continue with my assessments of both parks for for McCormick.
Judy, can you turn your microphone on, please?
I continue with my assessments for McCormick and Grantham Park, and McCormick Park continues to need visitor management and seasonal planning. McCormick Park experiences significant visitation over holiday weekends, particularly Memorial Day, 4th of July, and planning for seasonal demand and visitors accommodations is needed. I have to say the trash was not bad. I have a picture of the big pile that somebody left us, and there were new signs up. So if that worked, that's great. And I also think the border that they put with the barrels and the streamers along the resident side of the McCormick Road seemed to be effective. I was back and forth several times there. There were still a lot of cars that parked the wrong way. So I had to question whether the police had been down there. I know the police are busy and I'm not trying to harass them. And I'm sure they got the message from us, could they please come down more? And Phil offered to have them be in his driveway. And I didn't see them there, but it doesn't mean that they weren't there. But I didn't see any big problems. There have been conversations with particularly one of the residents, and there continued to be, their front yard was used as a toilet extensively. And they put cameras up, and they have faces, and they are interested in prosecuting. Just deplorable. My suggestion, which I was going to come up with later, is that we make McCormick Park no longer a park, as was last suggested in this meeting, that it's not a park. So if we're not going to treat it as a park, I think it should be declared not a park. It needs improvement in mapping, property identification. The GPS location identification is just not there. The park boundaries and land use clarification are not clear. People think that the whole area down there is park, and it's not. About half of it is owned by the Hollingers, and I would like to have asked that the board or whoever, through an employee of the township, or if you want me to do it, I'll do it, talk to the Hollingers about getting that property turned over to the township so that it can be clear, because there's a liability of people using that, and I know the township seems to be maintaining it now and then. I see the grass being cut, and it's just sort of an left go area. Infrastructure and safety improvements. Guardrail improvements still need to be improved, their appearance to protect the park infrastructure. And although the creek borders were recently rebuilt, there are a lot of dangerous access areas that remain. I have not been able to get a clear answer as to what our insurance is as a township. If we have separate insurance, or if we go under the Recreational Use Land and Water Act. And the Recreational Use Land and Water Act, we wouldn't have to apply for. It's a state act that about half of the states in the country have. And it protects landowners from unauthorized people using land with, maybe there's no trespassing signs up, or maybe there aren't, but they're still covered, they're still protected, because if there's reasonable maintenance of the property. I know about this because of the trails. Most trails are protected by the Recreational Use Land and Water Act, although my particular trail has their own insurance. But it's very rough along McCormick Park there for people to get down into the water, even though it is greatly improved with improvements that were made. The tow wall there is really, in my opinion, is much safer than the root-laden border. But I think we should look at that again, put it on our list of many, many things that we're trying to do. Unlike other Upper Allen Township parks, McCormick Park currently lacks a restroom and trash collection facilities. I believe temporary restroom placement and trash receptacles during high-use weekends, such as the 4th of July, should be considered. And this committee has decided not to recommend placement to the BOC as the last meeting. So that's why I think we should not be a park anymore. I have, there are pictures, okay. I did not see any toilet tents this year down along the creek, which was nice. And I'd already told you about the human feces. Enhancement security and park oversight, I talked about already. And I'd like to see, as a coordination with the fish, trout, and fishing activities, this park was donated to the township to be used for fishing. And again, I realize we're doing a lot of programs and trying to improve, make more opportunities, but I can see where we could have the Fish Commission to have some talks with our people, and a calendar perhaps of when they're, it's really exciting when they put the fish in, the kids come along, they have it set up. There's usually a officer from the Fish Commission, and they have buckets. They let the kids get the buckets out of the trucks and dump them into the creek. And it's really a positive experience that I would think the township could promote more. All right. Grantham. I have done a lot of fishing at Grantham lately. I have a 10-year-old grandson, and he just thinks the world of Grantham Park. And it's funny how when he catches a bluegill, it turns into a bass. When the story's told later, how it gets bigger. Every time he catches a fish, it's a bigger fish. But it's just been a wonderful, and it's been a wonderful community to get to know down there. All the little girls and boys, but the adults with the kids. And it's just really a wonderful thing that our township can provide. And I think it's, even when the path gets around there, there'll be even more, but it's really a nice community. Let's see. So again, I would like to see data collection there and in all the parks so we can help, emphasize putting assets towards parks that are being used. And I'd like to see more eco-management planning. I'm offering right now that I will buy more fish for the pond, but I'd like to have some kind of an assessment done of the fish that are there so that we can balance it and not overdo it. But I've offered before and I'm willing to collect money, but I'm willing to pay for it myself to put more fish in there. Those poor little bluegills are really getting their mouths beat up. But they are there. And the bass. The restrooms and the trash are in good shape. Again, the connected property with the orange fence down at the end, I don't know what's going on there, but it looks unkempt and I hear from other people, what's going on there? And I don't know. And I'd also like to see in the future that we permit kayaks. I understand the access concern, I think that could be addressed maybe down the road. And I know about the fish housing out in the water. That's been done many other places, many times. But I take my grandkids to Children's Lake and I take them to Laurel Lake and I take them to Pinchot Lake. And I think it'd be really nice for our kids in this township to be able to get in the water there, make memories. Every time I'm down there, the adults are the ones like, oh, I remember being here 30 years ago and I skated on here and I was, went swimming in the creek. And those are good things that we're providing. You should all pat yourselves on the back. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy, for your report. Christina.
Yeah, great. Simpson, of course, is always humming in the summer, so it looks great. And honestly, I think Trout Run is kind of like a hidden gem. Usually not a lot of people, but it looks good. So that's it.
Thank you. Jeff.
Christina, can you define the humming that you were explaining? Was it birds or?
Lots of people.
Okay, there we go. Just wanted to make sure.
Bees, yeah.
Wasn't sure what the humming was. Want to make sure. We'll start in order here. Aspen, I think looks great. The only thing I brought up last time was maybe a post or a flag for that one stormwater drain, just to make sure, because obviously that is a big wide open area that we talked about that can be for disc golf, soccer, whatever for the kids to play. So other than that, Aspen looks great. Spring Run and Mount Allen look like I have a stormwater war going on right now with all the construction going on, Spring Run specifically. Yeah, just lots of pipes, lots of construction ongoing at the front there, and that's expected. Is there a time frame for how long that will be?
I'm not sure. That's
Okay.
a roadway project. I know they got started a little late from the PI report that was
Right,
given from the
yeah.
engineer, but I don't know like an end date.
Yeah, walking in there when I saw the mountain of tube, I was like, wow, that's a lot. And then the only other question regarding Spring Run is, did you guys go in and cut down the rest of those branches that had fallen down? Because it looked like I was ripped up in the back left side.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Other than that, I mean, obviously it looks, well maintained other than the construction going on. Mount Allen, a lot of good things. Again, you said the painting, that looks great in the parking lots. I saw the water fountain obviously replaced, which that was one source of consternation for a lot of people who were in there before. So that looks good, as well as the dog bowl on the bottom, which is kind of nice. And all the stream bank looks good. The large stormwater swale, that was kind of a surprise at the very far other side. How's that going to be planted? Just grass, or will that also be some of the pollinators and things like that?
I think that's planted with the same type of mix.
Okay, same mix as, okay, great. Yeah, because that's coming along really well. And then one other question that I had pointed out was, do we do any mulching around some of the trees? Because there's one tree that was planted along that swale that was looking a little dry, which is expected given the heat. So,
Yeah,
but
I mean,
other than that, everything looks
we'll
good.
do maintenance mulching.
Yeah.
And probably now that we have somebody that can identify that kind of thing. But as far as like doing all the trees in the parks,
Yeah.
there's no
Got
way.
them. Yeah. But other than that, no, everything else looked good minus a lot of that construction. So thank you.
All right, Jason.
Fisher Park was in good shape. I went by after the mowing was done and everything looks nice. It just continues like it's it's in its prime this time of the year with the baseball that was going on and just everyone out there using the park. Miller's Crest was packed. My neighbors must have thrown a 4th of July party or something because everything was being used, all the equipment on the playground. There were kids waiting to get on swing. I don't know who they invited to the neighborhood, but I mean, honestly, I've never seen the park being used that much. It was pretty cool to see. And then the skate park's open at Kosher, or not so much a park, but the street skate area. And it looks like it's being well used and it was well received by the community. And we didn't have a dog park meeting, but when I went by, it's the nice time of year and a nice day and everyone's out having a good time at the dog park and positive feedback from everybody there.
Thank you, Jason and Dan.
Yeah, not much to report for Whiting Hill. Peak season, of course, lots of usage, sports, just general usage in general. It was freshly mowed, looked great, nothing, no issues.
Thank you. All right, on to old business. Eddie, events and activities, correct?
Just to go over a few of the events coming up here and some of the ones that are coming to an end. Food Truck Friday is this Friday. There's only 3 remaining for the rest of the year. July, August, and October, skipping September for the Fall Fest. That's once again at Whiting Hill Park North, 5 to 7 p.m. Treat Tuesdays as well. Only 3 more dates remaining, believe it or not. August 11th being the last one, 11:30 to 1. Both at Friendship and Whiting Hill Park North. Our Fall Fest, we started planning on this essentially right after last year's Fall Fest. So the planning and preparing has pretty much come to a halt. Pretty much everything's in place, mostly ready to go. So we are still having monthly meetings on that, but not too much more to report as of what we did last time. Once again, September 25th. 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. at Whiting Hill Park North. And the last one I have for right now is a tree lighting, as Chad was saying, December 6th, 5 to 6:30 at Whiting Hill Park North. Short, sweet, simple. Alba Orthodontics was gracious enough to agree to plant a tree, as Chad was saying. And there's a picture of it right there.
I love that we get Chad for scale.
Yeah.
That's 2.5 Chads high. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Next year to be 3.
Yeah. So the tree is fairly big. It's I think it was 16 to 17 feet wide. So it's a fairly big tree we're starting off with. So we're pretty excited about that, and it's just going to get bigger and bigger. And we're looking to get that late August, early September to plant. So it should be ready to go and pretty much well established by December. Yeah, and it is coming from a tree farm in Allentown. We went on and looked at a couple hundred different trees, and this is the best one they had. So, and that it was about 110 degrees out that day. So, for safety purposes, we did not wear our Christmas sweaters. When is it? It's December 6th from 5 p.m. to 6:30. Yep, Sunday at Whiting Hill Park North. Same thing. We're looking to have some carols either being sang live or playing through speakers, and a couple fire pits, 2 or 3 food trucks, and once again, it's just a quick event. It's normally pretty cold that time of the year, so it's been well the past couple of years just having an hour and a half to 2 hour event and in and out. So,
all right.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Eddie. Grantham Park update.
Yep, so an update on the project that's going on down there. So the construction company was supposed to be putting stormwater controls in this week. I haven't got down to see what's going on yet, but they are starting this week into next week. Their plan is to start on the backside of the park, the backside of the pond where the orange construction fence is. And just to answer that, the orange construction fence is there to not allow people to go to the neighbor's property because we had an easement with the new pipe, and there will be a fence put in with the new project, but that's just a way to keep people from the neighbor's property and respect his property. So they're going to work on that side first. They're going to excavate, do the trails, and then the second phase of the project near the playground, they will be closing the park probably about mid-September for a few weeks, just because access to any amenities is not going to be possible. And they're going to be working on the parking lot and road coming in. So to have safe access to that park is just not going to be feasible during that time. So probably mid-September to beginning of October, it will be closed for a short period of time.
Thank you. McCormick Park holiday weekends, unless Judy, did you have something before we moved into that?
No, I think I spewed that pretty much.
So this was just to kind of follow up on, yes, please.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Josh Brown, 834 Grantham Road. Going back, Judy and I actually exchanged emails all the way back in April in regards to McCormick, and I decided to deep dive a little bit and do some research here this past weekend after cutting the grass and vacuuming the pool. There is out on the web from spring 2016, the Upper Allen Township Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Plan. Okay, I'm sure everybody is very familiar with this.
Oh, yeah.
I actually went through it, and this was obviously pre-Chad and Eddie. This was with Scott Frazier and Scott Shepler, and several steering committee members from, past of Mechanicsburg School District, Messiah University, construction companies, et cetera. I was able to go through and just look at the big picture of McCormick, just listening to everybody's conversations here behind the table here. And a lot of great research, because McCormick is mentioned 37 times in this report. Based on the existing character and environmental value, the Yellow Breeches, just a couple pinpoints here that I've gone through. Yellow Breeches is also described more broadly as a habitat for wild brown and brook trout and part of the migration corridor for birds and monarch butterflies. Learned that. That's new for me. One thing here was trash cans had been removed and litter had become a problem. One respondent requested trash cans at McCormick Park. Fast forward into that, the recommendation of that came out to pack it in, pack it out for your trash at the same time. The plan also recommended classifying McCormick Park as a special conservation area. Under that classification, there's 5 bullet points. Environmental protection and passive recreation would take priority. Development would be limited by the site's environmental sensitivity and carrying capacity. Access would be physical or primarily visual where necessary. Environmental education would be an important use. The principal focus would be the Yellow Breeches Creek and its ecology and the importance of the wildlife, which I thought was very, very impressive. Because this was all new to me, to be honest with you. There was actually, from the 2016 plan timeframe, there was 4 shorts, 2 mediums, and 2 longs. And just to give you, and I'm going to give this to Alexis for the public record, just so you have it. Classified McCormick Park as a special conservation area. That was short term back in 2016. Install a larger park sign warning motorists to drive cautiously. I will tell you, driving down there myself, if you have a nice luxury vehicle that hugs the turns, it's a good place to take it, but not with kids around. Post no swimming signs along the water's edge. I didn't quite understand that one, but it was a short term. Reduce the speed limit and install speed humps along the adjoining road. That was a short term as well. The other one here, the develop the park's conservation and environmental educational focus, that was long-term. So this was a 10-year plan is what we're looking at, okay? Identify and construct a designated launch facility, restricting water access to activities to that location, which there was a map in there for, I believe, 3 different locations. There's a blue dot on that map to give you designation areas, and McCormick was one of them. The few other things here too is waste management recommendation. The plan separately recommends considering a carry in, carry out. In scouting, we call it pack it in, pack it out. Policy at selected parks, specifically naming McCormick Park. And then there was also some concerns with children dodging in and out of cars or in between vehicles out on McCormick Road. These were all mentioned on, McCormick was mentioned on the pages of 13, 23, 27, 46, 48, 61, 62 through 72, 75, 83, 91, 94 to 95, 123, 154, and 158. Also, just with the DEP and everything, this is a flood risk summary for McCormick. It is in a floodway, is what is classified for Cumberland County. Also, I've just, again, searching here on Google Maps, McCormick Park is not claimed by the township as a destination. It's there because of people, geotagging their photos or saying that they're here, whatever. Just knew a week ago, Joshua Bittner from Google says it's not a real park. It's just some well-worn parking spots next to the Yellow Breeches Creek. No playground and no restrooms. It's on Google Live as well. And then obviously just the conversations I've had with Judy back and forth about toilets and stuff. I do have a question. If somebody is using the restroom in front of somebody else's neighborhood and they have have it on or camera footage, was any of that reported to our police department as our soon-to-be chief is sitting here? Was that ever turned in to them?
When it was reported to me, I reported it to Chad, and Chad had a conversation, and so I think he took care of it
We did get a report of that as well. All right, cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
But other than that, this is just, again, it was totally new for me. Great information. Just thought I would cover some facts here with it. And I hope that this board and others can come to
So
some
that
type of
document, was that like accepted by the Board of Commissioners or something? Was
Yeah.
that pretty,
Yeah, it's on the
just so we.
Yeah, so it was actually, it's on the web. There's
Missed
an acknowledgements page.
I'll have to look for it.
And it was actually paid for by Tri-County Regional Planning Commission Regional Connections Grant Program. There was 3 firms, Environmental Planning and Design, Johnson, I'm totally going to butcher that name, Marana, Thompson, and Recreation and Park Solutions. There was the Park Recreation Board that was on there as well, Board of Commissioners, the township staff, and there was a steering committee. And it looks like this took a few years to go through, cross your Ts and dot your Is. So,
Nick, can I respond one thing? Can I respond to him?
Mm-hmm.
The designation on the maps, I did point that out to Chad, and it's on his to-do list. He'll get to it.
in
About
regards to the
having it updated, because it's not on the, it's not on the county,
property mapper I
property
saw.
mapper. It's not on there, and it's not on Google, but he was assigning it to the new assistant manager, right? It's on her list.
Community development. I mean,
Community
they're gonna have to
development.
talk to the county about getting it on the tax map.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, that was important.
yeah. But yes, it is on Google for destinations with Waze and Apple Maps. So thank you.
Hey, thanks, Josh. No, you're fine. I
Okay.
appreciate you bringing that to our attention. I was aware the document existed. I've not taken such a granular look at it, though. But actually something Judy had said earlier about maybe changing the designation from park to nature area or natural area, because DCNR treats the two things differently. If we were to change McCormick to a natural area, the DCNR, moving in the definition here, it says it's a land of unique scenic, geologic, or ecological value that is maintained in a natural condition with minimal human intervention. It's to protect the land.
Yeah,
Then grants are available. There's no public, no bathrooms, there's not going to be any improvements, but is that something we might consider to shift the use of?
and Chad's dealing with that in other areas, the native lands areas
I mean,
definition.
just as a first response, I'm gonna have to check with the solicitor. So as far as I know, like recently reading the deed of dedication, it was dedicated as parkland. That property, and one of the reasons why it's screwed up on the tax mapper is from basically the beginning of beginning of McCormick Road where it starts, where the bridge is, that's all York County property on our side of the creek.
Okay.
And it goes the whole way down to Ford Farm. It's still considered York County property. And Moomaws owned all that back in the day, and they donated that section to the township. So, recall it saying it was donated for parkland, so I'm not sure how that works. So I'll have to check with the solicitor.
Just a thought. It could change our whole conversation on the area.
Yeah.
True. All right, thank you. The next piece we have here are the e-scooters and park ordinance update.
Yeah, so I'd like to look at this as two parts. Obviously, we've been talking about the e-scooters, so we can start there. And then I'd like to touch on the park ordinance as well. I invited Acting Chief, Lieutenant Brian Barnes here, just to help clarify any questions or anything that we've been talking about, especially with questions on e-scooters and stuff. I know Stephen printed out a nice thing, so I don't know if you want to touch on that, just regarding the Upper St. Clair that was sent to all you guys last meeting.
Yeah, I just took some time to go over what our ordinance is and then what Upper St. Clair's is, just to pull out some differences between it and maybe some gaps we could close in our ordinance. One of the biggest ones to me was that we don't actually have a helmet requirement in our ordinance. So I just kind of broke it down into things that we can talk about and maybe bring up to add to our ordinance to help with enforcement.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at this, I mean, I'm fine to just go from top to bottom, starting with all these different pieces, because I think, you know, it's important to kind of go step by step. So first of all, I think it's easy just to say, hey, making sure we're defining what the e-bike is in the ordinance is a great thing to make sure we're including, so we can be clear the difference between that and a motor vehicle, correct?
Yeah, the one thing that I found that I did not know about e-bikes is there's actually different classifications of them. And I think one of the things that I found was maybe eliminating, making one of them, I think it's class E or whatever, that goes over 28 miles an hour. Just making them so they couldn't be used in the park at all, just because that's a little fast for the parks.
I agree.
One of the common designations there is if it has pedals or not. Even though the bikes have more power and might be higher classified, it's easier for the police to recognize a bike that's higher powered if it doesn't have pedals. I'm an e-biker on trails, and there's, you know, in the community, you're supposed to buy a sticker that has that your bike is is less powerful than it is, you know. But to make it visually, if it doesn't have pedals, then it's not allowed because it's more of the motorbike.
It looks like the next piece on here is the electric scooter one-wheelers, and it looks like Upper St. Clair specifically prohibited those. What are our thoughts on completely prohibiting electric scooters and one-wheeled vehicles? Like, when I'm thinking one-wheeled vehicle, I'm thinking of like the things that people kind of stand side on, right, that are motorized. Yeah. Any thoughts?
I mean, I'm kind of torn because I see tons of electric scooters in my neighborhood and it's mainly kids. I wouldn't want to say to a kid, hey, don't ride your electric scooter in our parks, but yet we'll let an e-bike. So I do not want to prohibit electric scooters.
So no, I think that what it is not, there's electric scooters, but there's also, I forget who makes them, but they're a one wheel, almost like a unicycle.
Sure, yeah.
Those are, I've seen a lot of people take a lot of falls on those, trying to learn how to ride those.
I've seen a lot of those around more and more in the past few years. Jason?
So I think the clarification would be the first step. Because with the parent responsibility, if that's implemented, if that doesn't work, then we could always move to prohibition rather than clarifying what is allowed. But I mean, all these are good suggestions. Like Upper St. Clair seems like they're ahead of us and getting it figured out. All the recommendations to me seem pretty good. But with the parent responsibility, you know, like, yeah, parents are responsible for keeping their kids in school too. So there's that. But by defining all this, so aside from this, I also serve on the youth aid panel. And this is the perfect kind of citation, that would get a kid in front of that youth aid panel. Because it's hopefully victimless, nonviolent, first time type of offender thing. That would give them a wake up call. And now they're like, man, I can't do this again, because if I do, then I'm gonna go talk to Judge Martin. You know, so we haven't seen a kid come back yet. And I've only been on the board, the youth aid panel for about a year. And it's this level of thing that comes before the youth aid panel, instead of them having to pay big fines and have a juvenile record. If they get through the program, it's expunged like it never happened. And this is the kind of thing that would be a good wake up call for them sitting in front of us with mom and dad, and, you know, having a next level conversation with the kids. I think by giving some teeth to this, you know, would put more kids in that position where they could tell their friends that, you know, hey, this is not a fun experience. Maybe we should, you know, and then word gets out, and then it's not going to be an overnight fix.
No, but
I
it'll
think
take time, and the hope is
definitely
that
go in the
there'll be
right
a ripple
direction.
effect. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to raise a couple points too. I think I share Christina's hesitation about banning scooters altogether, just because of how spread out our park system is. And you think about Winding Hill and kids coming down from the neighborhood. Channeling Jim, his one story from softball, seeing a kid who had slammed into a truck. I was over, watched the finals for softball tournament, and soccer was there too. There were kids that were zipping around, and it was a little dangerous at times too. So it comes down to parental responsibility. I think it's a matter of us going slow and being deliberative, because not every municipality is the same. Upper St. Clair is not like Upper Allen. There are different demographics, different road access, trails, or lack thereof. So I think that's the thing we need to be very mindful, that electric scooters are a way for kids to get around, but at the same time, there has to be some kind of oversight that the police, we at least give them some guidance so they just can't watch and have Jim's truck get hit or something like that. But seriously, I think it's a matter that it warrants attention, and we just can't turn a blind eye. It's like, well, kids are going to be kids, or it's like, no, it's something that we do need to be mindful to update the ordinance to make sure it works for everybody.
Because I mean, Upper Allen's not, you know, a walker friendly, you know, you need some mode of transportation to get from A to B, bicycles, scooters, whatever. It's not like in the borough where you can walk from A to B a lot easier. But I think, yeah, giving the police, you know, a little
Something more concrete.
yeah, you know, something that they can take action with, and then expose some of our youth to the consequences of poor choices, would get us going in the right direction.
Chad, did you have something?
Yeah, just to jump in and not to steer the conversation. This is your guy, we're looking for your advice, but just be aware that these bikes and scooters are illegal on streets and sidewalks. So like kids getting to the park is right now against PA law.
The e-scooters specifically are kind of well, they're new, number one, and the state law hasn't caught up to it. So they haven't defined them in the state law, which is why by nature of them existing, they're technically a vehicle. So like all the rules of a vehicle apply to an electric scooter, which I know saying it sounds absurd, right? Where are you going to take your e-scooter to get inspected and registered and insured? And, you know, you call your insurance agent and they're going to be like, what are you talking about? So until the state fixes that and and defines what an e-scooter is and puts it in a category that gives us some enforcement, we're stuck with, you can't ride them anywhere, right? And we do take enforcement action, but enforcement action for us, it looks a lot like education, because a lot of the time the parents aren't even aware. They buy these because their friends get them. And I get it, like you don't want your kid to feel left out. But what I think that this allows is for kids to be a lot more mobile. Then they get a lot farther away from home, and parents probably aren't aware of how far their kids are getting. And the other challenge is they're not following the rules of the road, and they're creating traffic hazards for other cars, but also to, you know, obvious danger to themselves. And They pack 2 or 3 kids on these scooters and, go zipping down the road and blow through stop signs and red lights. And obviously from a safety concern, that's from a police department standpoint, that's what we're most concerned about is the safety of the kids. Certainly an all-out ban of e-scooters in the parks. Anytime you can define something as black and white as possible makes our job easier, for sure. But I don't want there to be this impression that we're looking to be heavy-handed, because when we stop and talk to these kids, we take their information, we follow up with their parents, let them know that we had a conversation with them, explain to the parents about what the responsibilities are and what the rules are. If we would have subsequent contact with kids, we could take enforcement action, but realistically, I mean, I appreciate the youth aid panel, but do we as a community really want the police department handing out citations to 9 and 10, 11-year-old kids? Like, how helpful is that even? Youth aid panel is a great program, does a lot of good, but I feel like there needs to be like almost a middle ground between, education and like an extra step in the middle there. So I'm not here to advocate one way or the other. This is certainly your decision and the Board of Commissioners' decision as to the laws, as the executive branch, right? We enforce the laws, we don't make them, but I would just advocate for whatever decision that comes from this discussion. We just try to build a framework that is easily enforceable. A great example is the previous cell phone law. The new one's a lot easier, but the previous one in law enforcement, we considered a feel-good law because there were so many carve-outs and exceptions to it and it wasn't a primary violation. So it was really meaningless for us to be able to even enforce it. So certainly, our goal would be to have clear rules, clear laws, so that when we do this education to people, they can comprehend it and understand it too. So
That's helpful. Thank you. So, I mean, at least for me hearing that, sorry. No?
Jim Salter up around Mechanicsburg softball. So, of course, we're doing our camp there this week, and I knew this was coming on the agenda, and I would just say that if you're going to do that, there were 12 scooters parked today in there around the park when we were having camp from 9:30 to 11:30. So if you're going to do any of this enforcement and having that, you're probably gonna have to put a police substation down there somewhere because I think it's kids drive down there. That's how they use the park. Back in the day, this is exact same thing, with riding a bike, you're going to get down there, but you want to come down and enjoy the splash park. And, so I don't know what the answer is. You guys are in a very tough predicament because, it is a way for the kids to come and enjoy what you guys put together. And you guys keep saying, we're welcoming. We want people to attend our parks. We want it. We want it. We want it. And then on the other hand, you can't limit the access, and these parents have spent hundreds of dollars on these. So I talked to one parent last night that was there, or Monday night, her kid was riding a scooter through the park, and she was saying that she had no idea about this. So I think now that you have Savvy Citizen and you're gonna do this, I think you really need to put that out there and say that you're looking to do this, because I don't think the information that you guys are talking about right now is getting out to the citizens. And I think they may want to have a say in this. And I think this is just like the land preservation thing where people say, well, it was online. They have no idea. So when you stop a parent, you say, hey, do you know that they're talking about it Wednesday night? They're talking about what? Township people have no idea, none, that you guys are making rules or potentially could be enacting rules about this. So you have Savvy Citizen. I would really work at something like that to get the information out so parents can come ask questions and see what they're going to do and see what their side of the story is. But I can tell you I spend a fair amount of time at the parks and there's a ton of them there. So, and some are good. Like I said, some are the misfits and you're going to have your problem childs, but majority of it, they're coming down to enjoy the park, which is what we want. So
So what if we kind of define things better and then we could even have an event like e-bike, bring your scooter, whatever, slalom course, race, whatever, and just have a education table or, instead of like embrace it instead of regulating it or, and see if more education can help stem the problem a little bit before going to the next phase of enforcement or encouraging, like we can only say so much, right? Like we have our role. But, or at Fall Fest, having more information available, like this is the rules for Upper Allen or our parks or then, when it's available to you can't say, well, I didn't know that. If there's just more education for the families that buy these, I know, like you're saying, it's still, even Harrisburg hasn't figured it out yet. So what are you supposed to do? And, the prosecutor is going to be like, yeah, nope. So that's just poor use of your resources. And, that's important too. Like you don't want to go chasing kids down if it's just going to go in the waste bin.
Well, and even beyond just the ability to enforce it, we're mostly concerned about safety, right? I mean, we, God forbid, somebody actually get killed on one of these things, but it does happen. I know it happened down in York County not too long ago. So, it's something we're concerned about. We're all for partnering with the Parks Board for education. I think that's a great idea. So
We just have to find out educate them about what. And I guess that's where we're at right now is, what education can we pass along?
So are we saying that they are allowed to ride in the parks, but just not on the roads to
Well, they're
get
not
there?
allowed to ride it
Or-
to the park, but
Right.
once they get to the park, they can ride it.
Right,
So
so
that's what I'm saying. That's
As of
the,
now,
like right now,
that's where it is right now.
yeah,
essentially.
where you're,
Because we haven't, like, it's still defined as a vehicle, you know what I mean?
Right.
So.
And in the state, it is, they're asking for more time. They haven't figured it out. We were in Philadelphia this weekend, the police were riding scooters, and my grandson noticed that right away. So it's an evolving thing. We need to have a little time, but I think you're right, just we would address it and bring it to, that we're looking at it and get some input from the public, it's time.
there is an exception where it's business districts you are allowed to ride scooters on the sidewalks. So you see it in some cities like Philadelphia where you can rent scooters or DC. So there is a carve out for that in the state law, but that's pretty narrow and it doesn't really apply around here, unfortunately. So.
Yeah, that's the one thing I was going to say is it's a distinction between transportation and activity or recreation. And that's one thing that I was actually going to say to you, Lieutenant, is it's kind of along the lines of reckless driving. If you can define, identify them as you're being reckless. If some kid comes to the park, they're getting themselves there, they're not being a hazard. However, if they're jumping and doing wheelies through the trails and being a hazard to someone, that's a distinction. So I think that's where we really have to think about that rather than just prohibition or not. There has to be some kind of, definition that we have to explain that this is not acceptable behavior. Because if I remember correctly, you gave the analogy of the cell phones. The only way you really got them before was really when it was other moving violations of reckless or anything like that. And then you could cite them for cell phone. But now that's an actual moving violation. I wish I could have seen you this morning because there was someone by me who was on their phone, but that's another story. But no, I think that's the distinction we really need to make because it's a safety issue because the parks are for everybody. If you have elderly that are walking along the trails or you have family with us, pushing their baby in the stroller and you have kids zipping by in his e-bike or a scooter, that's a safety concern and we can't have that. So Jason's point's well taken. I think it's education, but I think we really have to distinguish between transportation and recreating with them.
So I would, the only thing for me out of the whole thing that caught me by surprise was the helmet not being in our ordinance about it. I think if we're going to act on anything of the ordinance before we kind of close the loop on a lot of this other stuff defining I think that should be added to the ordinance that any of these e-scooters or e-bikes, you have to have a helmet on. Like that's an easy law and an easy thing to enforce with the kids. And that's a huge safety thing.
I was just going to say, I would second that. If we come up with recommendations, that would be an easy identifiable thing for the police to target, saying someone could call and say, there's a bunch of hooligans running through here, and it's like they don't have helmets. It would be an actionable item that the police could be addressing versus, well, they're on their scooters. There's not a lot we can do. Versus, well, I didn't see them being reckless. Them not having helmets, not having seatbelts on in a car. Those are actionable items. So I think it is something that Steve brings up a good point.
So maybe our next step here is to identify the things on this list we think we can action on now, something we can add to the ordinance now. And then the things that we'd like to change, this is the education step that we take. Similar to what Jason was talking about, to where we say, hey, we want to hold an event. We want to explain what these new rules and processes are going to be in place to keep kids safe, to make sure we don't have scooters going through parking lots and these e-bikes driving through at reckless speeds. Does that sound like a fair step to take forward here?
I would make that motion that we do that so that we as a board come up with these recommendations.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So I guess now my question becomes, what recommendations are we going to make to the Board of Commissioners that we'd like to at least move forward with? And then which ones are we going to table, or do we want to table this completely, I guess?
I think the one we should make right away is the helmets. Yeah. The other ones we can dive into more, but that's a very easy one that should have actually been a rule a long time ago.
Okay, I'm just going down this list really quick here. E-bike definition, maybe that's one that we might need to consider a little bit more. Or do we want to?
Yeah,
Well, if the state doesn't have anything, I don't think we can do that.
But we can, because there is definitions of the different classes and sizes of the motors, and like there's motorcycles and dirt bikes that we're seeing now. And I think our ordinance does kind of cover that, but I think we do need to at least clarify something of, unless I'm wrong, we don't want those types of vehicles in our
Sure,
park.
I agree.
I was going to concur with that. And also Judy brought up a good point. It's like when you start looking at scooters or bikes that don't have pedals, that's a distinction also. So you also have, the technology is changing drastically, and it makes it hard for law enforcement to deal with this. So I think being broad in definition and scope helps, but at the same time, without specificity, it really narrows it as well. So that definition, we can get more specific to help the police, because of the Commonwealth's not going to address it anytime soon. That is a good point regarding the larger municipalities like Philadelphia having their scooter loan program. Pittsburgh's looking at one right now, I believe. But again, those are primarily closed areas, not wide open municipalities like Upper Allen. So it is something to Chad's point, I think we can define it, but it's complicated, as Judy had raised as well.
There is a definition that PennDOT provides for e-bikes, but they're silent on e-scooters. So I agree, it would be helpful to have a definition of e-scooters. I mean, common sense, we all kind of know what they are, but to have something in the ordinance that addresses that would be helpful. My recommendation to the board would be to make your e-bike definition consistent with the state, so that we're all using the same language for that. And I'm pretty sure that's the definition that, I didn't go word for word, but reading the sample ordinance from Upper St. Clair seemed consistent with the state as well.
Okay. E-scooters and these one-wheel vehicles. I know we're talking about, do we want to table that? Do we want to completely remove that, prohibit it?
I think we just remove it for now. I do want to talk about where e-bikes may ride. It does say that's not, there's no guidance. That's not exactly true. The Upper Allen does state they can't be in the playgrounds, tennis courts, and things like that. What I meant by it is Upper St. Clair just strictly says it has you can't ride it here. The only place you can ride it is on paved trails. So I don't know if that would be something we'd want to add.
Do we really want them all on the paved trails either, knowing there are people walking and using those walking trails either? But we don't exactly want them in the parking lots.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know if you can have both. You have to pick one, I think.
I mean, bikes, forget the E part, but like bikes ride on the paths too. So yeah, it's common sense. Use common sense, people. Like, I mean, I like the paved path because I'm thinking of like the softball fields you know,
And as long as they're consistent with the speed, but then again, they don't have speedometers on those, neither do bikes.
And I
but-
tell you right now, there's plenty of bicycle tire tracks that go through freshly groomed softball fields. So, and we let bikes go anywhere.
Speed on trails makes sense, I think.
I agree.
Yeah.
So add that.
Paved, yeah.
And then on paved trails, we're in agreement with e-bikes. Lieutenant Barnes, does that help you with keeping the e-bikes on the paved paths, the walking paths, and out of like the parking lots and such as it relates to the ordinance?
Yeah, I feel like that's pretty clear.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yielding to pedestrians, I think, is an easy one.
Agreed.
There is a definition for electric scooter. I'm not sure where I got this. It's been a while since I looked at this, but it says a device weighing not more than 100 pounds, equipped with handlebars, a floorboard designed to be stood upon while riding, and powered by an electric motor. The term does not include a wheelchair, mobility device, motorcycle, moped, or motor-driven cycle as defined by Pennsylvania law. So that must have been a Pennsylvania law.
Could you share that along with us at some point?
Yeah, I sent this, I just emailed it to all you guys. When I revised, looked at this and tried to rewrite it. But if you would like me to say it, do you want me to say it again? Or is that
No,
good?
that's,
Okay.
that's helpful. That's helpful. Audible passing signal when you're passing by somebody, letting them know. I think that's an easy thing to add as well. I mean, yeah, I don't know if that really helps in the ordinance as much, but
I think we recommend it, but then that goes back to the education thing.
okay.
Because I think
Education.
no one's gonna know any of this stuff unless we actually.
Be audible or mechanical, like,
Mhm.
hey, we don't want everyone walking around, riding around with bells on their scooters.
Minimum rider age, I feel like, is a tough one.
Yeah, I would say no to that.
Yeah, I don't think we should do that. I mean, my 8-year-old would be pretty mad.
Hours of operation is just park hours. I feel like that's a fair and easy one. We already have that. Parent responsibility, we agreed that should be a yes.
Yes.
And then purpose statement.
Why we're doing the ordinance.
I would say again, that's important to make sure it's the safety of the parks. So right now, if we were to agree to put a motion through to update our ordinance, the things that we are going to be updating is one, including an e-bike definition. Making sure that we are explaining where specifically they would ride, which would be paved paths. The speed limit would be no more than 15 miles per hour as according to the Upper St. Clair ordinance. Yielding to pedestrians. There's a requirement for helmets when you're on any sort of e-bike or scooter. Park hours only to be riding. Parent responsibility is a must. We said yes there. And then we have the purpose statement included in the ordinance. Are there any changes, questions, or comments related? Do I have a motion to push this through and update the ordinance? Sorry, Chad.
Not to cut you off, but we don't really need a motion tonight. This is more guidance for us to rewrite, to give, like, we're not going to give this to the commissioners the way it is. We're going to come back to you guys with updated language,
Okay.
and then we'll make a motion to move it to them.
Sorry, I got too excited.
I appreciate the
I'm
enthusiasm.
really moved. That was great. Well done, guys. All right. So there's your guidance.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else before we move on there?
Along that line, though, again, getting back to, we kind of tabled e-scooters and one wheels. Is that something, Chad, that you guys will look at to try and
We can
define?
look at more, some more.
And I thought that Judy had that definition she's going to share as well.
Right,
Which would be
yeah.
part of it.
I sent it to you guys.
Right, yeah, but that's, I was asking Chad if they were going to be including that or try to, because I think if you write it, you could write it how works best for law enforcement, for you guys, for the park, and then have the definition, or until otherwise changed by Pennsylvania law or something along that line, where you keep it consistent to make it usable for us to enforce.
I mean, this isn't going to happen overnight, so we'll bring
It's
back.
not? Are you sure?
So we'll bring back, like I said, the recommendations. We'll look into the one wheels a little bit more, and then we can come back again with more guidance to that, and then you can make a decision then as well. This is probably going to take a couple meetings till we actually hash this out before we're ready to give something to the commissioners.
Snow, and then it'll pass.
Maybe the state will catch up to we're ready.
Sledding regulations then too?
Is it fair to consider the skateboarding, because we have an ordinance against skateboarding, and I realize our new skateboarding park is in Mechanicsburg, but we have an ordinance against skateboarding. Is that something we should?
I might be wrong, but I think the only thing against skateboarding is the same as the bikes. It's just the playground areas and pavilions and like courts. I don't think
Could
it's a
be.
complete ban on them.
Right.
So-
And you want to keep that, right? Or is that-
Yeah, I mean, I
I would say
think,
there wasn't any issues with that.
yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, because we have a skate park now, it's Mechanicsburg Skate Park, but they're skateboarding in there. So should the ordinance say that you can skate, or is that too much of a detail?
No, well, and, I mean, the next part of this is our whole park ordinance.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we'll write that one down as well, but that was kind of the homework assignment I gave some of you guys. It's like, go
Yeah.
through this. This is all going to be one big, we haven't done an ordinance update in the park since 2019 or something like that. So just looking at everything, thinking of issues, things that came before the board over the past couple of years. I have a couple wrote down. So just things to think about. I can go over mine first, or if you guys want to do yours.
No, go ahead. After
Okay,
you.
so, I mean, just some of the issues we dealt with in the past, like dumping in our dumpsters, dumping in the parks regularly. We kind of solved that. We have locking dumpsters now, but we did find an ordinance hidden somewhere just about illegally dumping outside of not your own receptacle, but there's nothing in the parks itself defining like the trash receptacles are for park use only. So I'd still like to do something with that. Yard signs and signage that gets put up along the parks. I mean, it's always been a practice that we remove all them, but we don't really have an ordinance saying you're not allowed to put them there. So just putting something in there about that. Redefining the hours of the parks a little bit. Since the ordinance has been wrote, we have parks that are lit now. Then we allow people there till 10 o'clock at night. So just kind of defining those areas or leaving it open to hours posted at the park, which it may be. I didn't fully read the whole ordinance.
I mean, that makes sense because you can light up the court, but you can't be in the park to light up the court.
Right.
So, yeah. Right.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, like special events, we need to define that. I don't know what I wrote for the last one, so I'll have to think about that one. And then along this conversation as well, we discussed this, there's two commissioners left. We've been talking about park ranger or community resource officer. I talked to Caldine about it a little bit. I talked to Lieutenant Barnes. They went through the police union to see if this is an option. We have the option to do a seasonal park ranger at a pretty minimal cost to our budget. So we're going to propose that at budget time to add this type of position. And I think a lot of that will help with some of these things. And this will be in between of the police and these kind of nuisance problems we have. That person can interact and interject. And if it escalates into a problem, then obviously they need to get the police involved. But it would be another step of, hey, you can't do that. I mean, just a parent figure of the playground watching our assets. I mean, somebody that would be assigned to come in on the weekends so they could monitor McCormick Road. They can monitor all these issues that are going on and better relay them to the police.
Put them on a scooter, yeah.
We'll get a mall cop. So I just wanted to bring that up and kind of throw it out there that it's something we're going to pursue since I feel like we've had interest over the last couple meetings about doing something like that. So.
Well, if you're looking at the ordinances, ice skating and kayaking too, can we look at that?
Yep.
Chad, one other one that I would request we revisit is the mowing ordinance. Obviously for public and private lands so that we're not, shaming neighbors who are trying to do the right thing, as well as parks where you guys are, what is it? More grow, less mow mentality to try and, as a way of cost savings to the township. So you're not cutting as much just to have a carpeted lawn, but where you could actually have some areas in the swales where you're trying to grow things that for birds and pollinators and things like we've talked about before. So if it's a matter of updating any of those ordinances, I think that would be, timely.
Yeah, we've actually been talking to community development about that too, because there is a push for that. And even DCNR, they're handing out seed mixes to plant in your yard. And then our ordinance says, no, you can't plant them because it's going to grow more than the height that you're allowed to keep it. So we're working with community development on that is like, having some type of perimeter, like maybe 10, 15 feet from your neighbor still has to be maintained. So you're not intruding in them. It has to be like designated plants. It's not just going to be a weed bed that
Right.
I'm not mowing my grass because it's a pollinator area that's full of thistle. So we are looking into that.
Well, you need to define your native lands area because you have those signs up and people want to know what that is. There's only going to be more of them. There's going to be more of them up there in Autumn Chase, which would go along with this, defining it.
Is that something to address through ordinance update also, as Judy's saying? We can do that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why not. I mean, to me, it's all kind of one thing that we
Right,
would,
well-
yeah. And again, that's the township ordinance, so we'll be working with community development on those.
Is it a matter of reaching out with some of the HOAs too? Because I know township staff, Alexis had been reaching out to some, and that was one thing I failed to discuss regarding Birdtown, but we're also trying to reach out to HOAs so that, again, when you're talking about mowing ordinances and things like that, but are you guys working with some of those HOAs regarding some of these native areas, these,
Yeah, I mean, I know in particular the Orchard Glen because of the issue, they've came to the BOC a couple of
right,
times about.
and that's what I was referencing, yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, there's talks going on.
Okay, thank you.
Any other ordinance updates? All right, thank you. Last but not least, generations.
So we put that back on the agenda. Obviously budget time's coming up, so we've had a couple, we had one of our PI meetings. We discussed some, like what direction is next steps at generations. So obviously the trails have been coming up. We walked the park tonight. I gave you guys maps of the trail, the proposed trail. We did apply for an LSA grant 2 years ago for that project and we didn't get it. I think we also applied for DCNR a year or something before that. We have a new person to write grants now. I don't know if it's worth going after him again. I don't see it as like as an appealing project as like the first one. The first one opened the park. This one's kind of just a connecting trail that doesn't really connect to any other developments or anything. So we're discussing about just putting that in or offering that in his budget as a capital item. Another thing we got direction out of that meeting was restrooms. So we're looking at possibilities of that just to get ideas. The engineer's working on that. And then one other thing that we're working on in-house with local contractors is like shoring up the barn and the other outbuilding down there just to make sure nothing happens to it over the next few years until decisions are made. And the group looking at the barn is actual like barn builder from Lancaster. So we asked them if they could give us an overview of what it really would take to turn that into like event space or something usable for the township. So those are a couple of things we're working on right now, just to kind of have for budget and updates. One other quick update from us is we got a new farmer to mow the property that's gonna do it in the window of the birds nesting. So they're gonna actually mow that probably within the next week, and then they'll mow it again in the fall. And then it'll grow up again next year until probably around this time. So, and then otherwise, just leaving it open to you guys is back on the agenda of ideas and other comments.
Well, as I asked you today, I didn't understand what the insurance is on those buildings. If they're not insured, or if they are insured, their insurance companies are not going to want them to be sitting empty
Yeah, I mean,
and unheated.
they're insured as an asset, but I don't know where further it goes from there. I mean, that's something we're going to have to look into.
Well, we should have a clear understanding of that, because you get somebody in there messing around and set them on fire, you don't have any right insurance, you're in trouble. How do we find that out?
I mean, Alexis is probably going to find out. Yeah. Yeah. We'll have to talk to the insurance company and figure out what's actually, like I said, I know when we bought the property, everything was evaluated and insured, but the level and I don't know.
Yeah.
Usually there's a vacancy provision in there, but if you're regularly checking on it and there's security measures and you're winterizing it and so forth,
There's no heat.
well, if it's winterized, it's not going to make it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But yeah, I think we should get clarification from the insurance company to make sure we're still. But I agree, if you're not winterizing and then a pipe bursts, they're not going to want to pay for that, obviously. But I think.
And the buildings are winterized, so.
Yep.
And we obviously took the measures to secure them by putting the fence up because obviously we didn't want people in that building. So.
Yeah, some type of position from the insurance company would probably be helpful.
And like I said, the other thing I saw was the big ruts, in which we've had a lot of rain, and, you know, you guys aren't too far behind, but that's a liability with people walking, that it's not, it could be considered not reasonable maintenance.
That's on our list to go down and take care of.
So Chad, first, thanks for walking us around
Yes.
today. Second, you and I talked about a little bit when you were talking about the bathroom idea. It's called Generations Park. My thought was doing, wherever you're sitting these restrooms, is doing a generation walk where you actually could sell the pavers or whatever with family names on it that would then walk up to one of the buildings. Just kind of help offset a little bit of cost. It wouldn't offset much, but something just kind of bring people in and some pride in the a park.
It's my understanding there's no sewer hitch up out there. It would have to be a septic field, right?
The proposed sewer from the engineer is to connect to Lisburn Road.
There's something on Lisburn Road?
Yes, it comes down past Black's Landscapes or up to Black's Landscape. So it would be, what they're looking at is a proposed low pressure system that would pump it back out to Lisburn Road.
I'd have to look at the map.
All right, well, thank you very much for the update. And again, walking through those buildings, getting to see Generations was great. Really excited to see the next steps of that project. So thank you, Chad. Last but certainly not least, Spring Run Park Trail.
I'm just going to pull it up on the property mapper just so we know what we're looking at. So last month we walked Spring Run as one of our pre-walk visits. Let me find out where we are. There's Mount Allen. Okay, so Spring Run. So in the past, this was a couple years ago, myself, Scott Frazier, and Kelly Palmer met with Messiah Lifeways on a possibility of connecting Spring Run Park to Messiah Lifeways, which is literally on the border of the park property. Just doing a trail basically from Nittany Road into their back of their property. They have some community gardens and stuff on this back end. So the trail would come from that road down through the park, follow kind of the stream down through, connect up to the playground and basketball court, and then back out to Nittany Drive. One thing when we talking to them, an idea was this open area, and this is all open too under some trees, is possibly doing like a senior area, kind of what was proposed to Generations, some like active equipment for them, balance equipment. One of their suggestions was pickleball, obviously senior. So we just met with them again. Myself and Eddie met with them last week, 2 weeks ago, just to kind of reopen the discussion, see what's out there, see what the possibilities are. They were open the first time. We never really talked about funding. It was one of the projects kind of fell off. So I did ask them about funding. They seem interested in that. Obviously grants, it probably would be very easy to get grants for this in multiple different ways for health, connectivity, everything. They are very, very open to allowing the public on their property. They encourage public on their property. They do township events like the drive-through Christmas thing. So they're all about that. So next steps kind of would be for us, if everybody's still on board with kind of pursuing this idea, was thinking that we could get some focus groups from Messiah, since there are senior residents based. There's 700 residents, and then there's also 1,100 employees, or do I have that backwards? I think there's like 1,200 people over there, and it's kind of one of those areas. I mean, it's a tax base that they're kind of their own little community that sometimes we may forget about. So thinking about connecting, again, some senior area playground things. So just wanted to kind of get your guys' thoughts on it moving forward, trying to get focus groups from Messiah, invite a member or two of this board to be part of that. And then look at grants and possibly do something over the winter to try to get an idea of the plan, and then maybe next year go for some grants. And if we get full grant funding plus Messiah pitching in, maybe we could do it nothing out of our pocket. So, and then make it like a 28 project.
Yeah, I think Messiah is a great community partner. I live across there in Kimberly Meadows, have watched that grown, and they've been good stewards, if you will, with everything they've done. I would volunteer to be on the focus group to help you with whatever you want to do, especially since, Spring Run's my baby. I got to watch that. But no, I think, again, what we've talked about too, and I know we've talked to the commissioners, the importance of trying to have connectivity between the township parks with the neighborhoods. I think that really gives a sense of community. By doing this connection, I think it really, validates the partnership that we have with Messiah. So I wholeheartedly say we move forward with that.
And keep in mind, they weren't aware that that was part of their land. So they're very excited with this newfound land. And they would really
Happens a
put
lot.
something in there.
There's gonna be a whole migration now.
I mean, they actually had, they had plans to put like a putting green and expand their Frisbee golf course. I think they were talking about kind of over in this area, and they're like, oh, now we have this area that we can look at. So
Makes a lot of sense to have it it's a close community, not having to get in your car and go. There'll be a lot of people will be able to access the park.
And then one other quick thing, if there's no more comments on that, I think I reported last month that this bridge access is basically failing, and part of the stormwater improvements, we're removing that and putting in what's called a ford crossing, was just a stabilized creek bottom. So we'll still have access to this little triangle, but it's not going to be meant to like mow every week. So we did discuss it a little bit, I think, and one of the ideas from our staff was maybe like reforesting that area and plant some native trees far enough apart that it will create a canopy that we don't have to mow under it, but not densely enough that it's creating a hazardous woodland area. So I wanted to run that by you guys too, as just as a future option for that little triangle that really doesn't serve a purpose right now.
It's a great idea.
Or another hole for disc golf, right?
Well, you have to cross
The part 5.
Yeah.
With the
you have to
camera.
cross the water hazard.
Yeah.
We'll get a couple gators and put in there.
Might throw my shoulder out, but yeah, exactly. Water hazard, right?
Just going back to generations really quick, just so it's in the minutes or whatever. Eric had mentioned the walking access to McCormick Road in the corner there. So just something to,
Yeah, and
Or-
we'll definitely look into that, and I'll get with Jason and see what the options are for that end.
Well, it seems like everybody's on board here, so no issues.
good.
Get at it. All right. Well, hey, it looks like that is the.
Chairman, I have one item.
Sure.
Being new business, given that we were talking about ordinances, it didn't really fit in, but given that Commissioner Martin's here, Commissioner Fairchild's here, I wanted us to address, or at least be cognizant to talk about the issue regarding the residential development fee that we were talking about regarding Fisher. And I think it's something that both commissioners had brought up that is, timely, and it's ripe for us to consider updating that ordinance as well. Given that you can have a low threshold dollar amount for that development fee, it might be something that I think Commissioner Fairchild brought up an excellent point saying fair market value, or I think the language could be fair market value or as agreed to by the commissioners with the developer, something like that. Perfect example, you could have them pay $1 for a development fee, but they're paying $1 million in offsite improvements, things like that for the road or sewer or anything else like that. You could leverage that, but I think it's something that benefits this board when we start talking about the development fee to help the parks. I think it behooves us to make sure that we, try to address that issue as well.
I mean, currently it's at $2,300 per dwelling, so.
Right, and I think, again, in some of these cases, again, when was the last time that was updated?
Since it's been enacted, I think, I'm not sure if.
I mean, it makes sense as the available land becomes less.
I think that's kind of the point. It's like when we're trying to talk about connectivity of residential communities and parks and things like that, and obviously if you have a developer who's willing to do things, that's one thing. But if the fee is not commensurate with what we have currently for the market value, I think that has to be considered to what the commissioners had brought up. So not a matter of us acting on that now, but I wanted to bring that up as an action item for us to discuss, or at least support the board on what they're looking to do, because it selfishly benefits parks too. So thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. All right. Our next meeting will be August 26th at 6:30 p.m. This meeting is adjourned.